My name's Rosie McLachlan and I live in rural Northumberland near Alston Moor, and I make wood-fired ceramics, local clays from the moor in my work, and the work I make tends to be sculptural, but I incorporate wheel thrown and slab building and hand building like coils into my work. I came up to the northeast to do my Master of Fine Arts at Newcastle Uni, and I just loved it up here, so I ended up staying. And now I would say the northeast is a big part of the community of artists that I have up here, and the landscape really feeds into my practice. A lot of my work features symbols from the natural world, and a lot of those I get from where I live on the edge of the moor. The process starts with making the clay bodies. For wood firing, you need to have a clay body that will cope with the thermal shock. So to mitigate against breakages, I need to include grog in the clay, and there's quite a nice life cycle of pots that you've made that maybe haven't worked out so well. You can break those up and use the clay and reincorporate it into your new clay body. So there's a kind of reuse of old pots to make the new pots. I make a combination of hand-built, wheel-thrown and slab-made work. I use a kick wheel, so it's not an electric wheel. You kick it with your foot and there's a certain amount of momentum that you get through the flywheel being quite heavy. Yeah, so that's my making process. I don't glaze my work because the way that I fire my work, it goes into an anagama kiln, which you fire for 4 days and 4 nights. And because there's a lot of ash in the kiln, what you tend to get is a natural glaze where the wood that you're using to fire the pots, the ash melts onto the pots and creates a kind of natural glaze. I use a mixture of commercial clays and clays that I dig locally. This exhibition is all about sustainability, and I don't think it would be sustainable if we all dug our own clay. You know, eventually it would run out, and that's not sustainable. So I think it's, for me, using the local clay is probably less about sustainability and more about place. I happen to live somewhere where there's quite a lot of clay, and we've actually, in building my kiln, dug up a lot of clay, so I kept that clay, and that's the clay that I use. Probably over the last decade I've been firing with other potters that had their own anagama kiln, so I've been putting my work in other people's kilns. Because you're firing for such a long time, you need a team of people, and usually you work together and cook together, live together while you're firing the kiln. Maybe 5 potters will get their work out of that. So I'm putting in 3 pieces that I made earlier this year. We did used to have these traditions, and pottery was such a big part of funerary rites. And I feel like that's something that I'm doing in my work, is imagining what that material culture would look like now if we'd retained these kind of rites of passage at the end of life. We are living in a troubled time at the moment, and I think there are things we need to start doing now. And thinking about that in my art practice, I'm also thinking about it in my life. So one of the things that we've been able to do is find somewhere where we could live off grid, and that's part of the whole way that I'm trying to live. But I think one artist changing the way they work isn't going to solve everything, and we all need to think about what else we can do. Is it worth doing this thing if it takes away from the next generation that comes? So there's an awareness of, there might be a way of working that I'd really like to do, but the cost of it is too much environmentally, and finding other ways to do it feels like the right thing to do. I don't totally believe that hopefulness is going to be the solution, and I definitely don't think hopelessness creates good solutions either. Put that aside and actually think about what is being required of us now, and we still have to work hard at these things, and we might never see the result of it, and that's harder, but it's what's required now.